Hello, Namaskar. Welcome to my pod, the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis. My name is Juggi Bhasin. To become a subscriber, all you have to do is to press that red button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free. Would also really appreciate if you could like this video and share this video with your friends. All right. So within a day, within 24 hours, the entire geostrategic scenario, the entire geostrategic balance in the India, Pakistan, Afghanistan region has changed completely in favor of India. How did this happen? What are the elements which have gone into this change? What is the background to this change? I'm going to talk about all that in today's podcast. But know this, that in within a space of 24 hours, two or three big things happen. The Afghanistan foreign minister, that is Amir Khan Muttaqi, he lands in Delhi. He has met our foreign minister Jaishankar. And then on that same day, the UK Prime Minister is in Mumbai. He meets with our Prime Minister, and on that same day, or within a period of 24 to 48 hours, our Prime Minister calls up the US President and he congratulates him on the Gaza deal. But more important, he talks about the fact that the trade talks are heading in a satisfactory direction. And on that very same day, or around that time, 11 Pakistani soldiers are killed by the TTP. The TTP, of course, being the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Pakistan launches airstrikes against the Afghan government in Kabul, ostensibly to kill TTP leaders. I don't know if they have been killed or not, but certainly innocent civilians certainly have been killed in those airstrikes. All that is happening. All that is happening within the space of 24 to 48 hours. And what does it result in? It results in this massive victory for India, where India, after being literally being, you could say, under the hammer or being under so much of pressure in the last few months because of all kinds of reasons, whether they be of trade or geostrategic realignments, India comes out on tops. Pakistan's Afghanistan policy is in a shambles now. I promise you, it's in a shambles. And more important, I think, the United States probably now is getting very, very worried about whether Pakistan has it in it to give them what they really want. I'm going to talk about what they want, what exactly are their interests, all of that today in today's podcast. But now, let's start right from the beginning and then I'll come and I'll cover all these points. The first important thing we need to keep in mind is that when we talk of Pakistan, when we talk of Afghanistan, or rather when we are talking of the larger Muslim Ummah world, a lot of people believe that, because of faith, the Muslim world would be united, they would be in sync, they would follow almost the same policies because of shared cultural, religious interests. But that is not true at all. And we have seen that, of course, in West Asia. We have seen that there are so many kingdoms which are completely at odds with the likes of, for instance, the Hamas or the likes of the more radical fringe or of the Wahhabi mindset people. So that thing has always been there. Now, there was this belief going around that Pakistan had wrapped Afghanistan around its little finger. It was in control in Kabul. It had achieved its geostrategic reasons, its interests, and that it had made an offer to the United States that since Afghanistan was under its control, therefore the US outreach to Central Asia via Afghanistan would be helped on by Pakistan. And also, whatever else the US probably plans to do in the future vis-a-vis Iran, again through the doorway of Afghanistan, that also Pakistan would be facilitating in all these factors and probably even providing air bases or whatever. Now, all that was something which the Pakistanis believed they had under wraps. It was under their control till this entire policy has literally imploded. And why has it imploded? It has imploded because India has been doing some, I would say, exemplary diplomatic outreach, but they have been working quietly, diligently, without making too much of a noise, away from the radar. They have been working under pressure. Because please remember, the last few months haven't exactly been very comfortable for Indian diplomacy, whether it be on trade issues, whether it be on geostrategic issues, whether it be on major realignments which are going on in the world, even between, let's say, between the US and India. So Indian diplomacy has been on test, and it has, I would say, it has come out on tops in this test. The entire policy of Pakistan vis-a-vis Afghanistan lies in a shambles because the Pakistani foreign minister has now declared that Afghanistan probably would be the number one enemy after the TTP has turned on the Pakistani soldiers. So lot of that stuff is going on in the region, but let's try and understand why this is happening. What are India's interests? How has India scored this major victory? So, as I explained earlier, the Muslim Ummah is not on the same plane. They are not exactly on the same table. They don't exactly share the same interest. The cultural and the religious part is only one part of it. Otherwise, the interests are very divergent. Now, we know that Pakistan has been growing in the international arena for quite some time. They have been all over with all these visuals coming of making a pitch to the US president, offering rare earths. There was even a funny visual of the Pakistan prime minister opening a box and giving minerals, rare earths, minerals to the US president, as if all that was, something which the US could go and they could get all these minerals, whatever they wanted. Offering Afghanistan to a certain extent, I would even say that, the mining, the other natural rich resources in Afghanistan, Pakistan would be able to help the US. Bagram air base, a very strategic and a very important air base that also could probably be in the Pakistani control, and they would direct the Afghanis. It has not worked out for a very simple reason. And let me explain that reason to you. The simple reason is you have to understand who is the Afghani and who is the Pakistani. And when I'm talking of the Pakistanis, of course, in Pakistan also, there are all different kind of people of different ethnic make. But the people who really matter as far as the army is concerned are the Punjabi, Pakistanis, which form the bulk of the officer class and the soldiery in the Pakistan army, and they really matter. Now, the mentality, the outlook of the Pakistani Punjabi military man is completely at odds with the mentality of the Afghani. Who is the Afghani really? The Afghani at the end of the day is a tribal. He's a tribal man. The tribal man is essentially a very simple person. And these simple people, and I'm not romanticizing this, I'm telling you facts. These simple people, they might not have enough to eat, they might not have enough to wear, they might not have enough housing, they might not have enough infrastructure. But one thing they demand all the time, and that is the Afghani which has always demanded this from time immemorial, is self-respect. And if you meddle, if you tamper, if you play around with the Afghani self-respect, then the Afghani is going to give it back to you. And they have proven it again and again and again. All the major powers in the world have gone to Afghanistan. They have been defeated out there. They have had to leave Afghanistan. Simple tribal men, literally in chappals, literally in shalwar kameez, yielding their AK-47, and not romanticizing this. I'm telling you facts. Armies of these people, you can call them the Taliban, but for me, they are the Afghanis. They have defeated the mightiest armies in the world. And therefore, did Pakistan seriously think it had a chance? Because what was Pakistan really up to? The Pakistani Punjabi mentality rests on two things. One is it rests on racism, and number two, it rests on manipulation. That is the ethos of the Pakistani military man. Why do I say racism? Because this strange inborn or inculcated belief in the Pakistani Punjabi military man that this is their region, they will control this entire region, they will create problems for India, but they will control Afghanistan. And not only Afghanistan, they will control Afghanistan, then they will use their nuclear assets as a blackmailing tool to impress the rest of the world. They can get whatever they want from any country in the world, especially from the United States. And they even have interest in Central Asia. This is the thinking of the Pakistani military man. And I think partly, if I were to analyze where did this thinking come from, I think this thinking has really come from the time before 1971 when they were in control of East Pakistan, as it was then called, which is now Bangladesh, of course. And really, you have to take a deep dive into the historical background into what really was happening in East Pakistan at that time, when these Pakistani generals, Pakistani soldiery, their officer class, and the way they were treating Bangladesh, especially Bangladeshi women, the number of rapes, the number of the number of, literally, I have to use this word, sleeping around that was happening. And this is entire like this racist, fair-skinned army of people which had gone to Bangladesh. So I think they inculcated this racist, this that we can overlord over everything. We are this is all in our domain. This thinking, they carried the same thinking, I think, in Afghanistan. They felt that since they had and then to of course you cannot take your eyes away from history. There was an element of cooperation in the creation of the Taliban. The Pakistanis were instrumental in that. And they thought that they were our creation. They were literally the people we had created, and they would always follow the diktat of Pakistan, little realizing the historical roots of the ordinary Afghani, which will never ever tolerate domination from anybody else, any power, any nation state. Self-respect, as I said, is the most important thing for the Afghani. They trampled over that self-respect. They expected obsequiousness. They expected that it would be like a vassal state. It would be like another state of Pakistan where they would tell the Afghan rulers what to do. That didn't turn out to plan, as we can see now. And so, therefore, this entire policy of the Pakistan policy has imploded. So both this racist and this manipulative policy of the Pakistani Punjabi military man is actually completely at odds with the ordinary Afghani desire for self-respect, for self-esteem, for the fact that we might not have much, but we value that, and you have to respect and you have to be there at our terms. So that's the root cause of the Pakistani-Afghani problem. Then let's turn our attention a little bit to a little bit of the geopolitical background also. The Pakistanis, true to their manipulative nature, true to their dissembling nature, and I have a feeling what all they might have promised to the United States besides the rare earth minerals, they also, I think, probably would have made a pitch to the fact that they would, since they thought that they were in control of Afghanistan, and therefore from Afghanistan, they would extend the control to the Bagram airbase, which is a very strategic and a very, very important airbase. And from that, they would give access to the Americans to Central Asia to keep an eye on and a check on Iran. And why Central Asia, you must be wondering? Because there is a new concept which is now coming into play in Central Asia. It is called the TRIP concept, or it is also known as the Trump route. The idea really being that since the US wants to put pressure on Russia, so they would seeking that they rope in the Central Asian economies, the Central Asian countries, and they kind of control their energy supplies, or rather diversify their energy supplies away from Russia, and probably open a link between Central Asia to Turkey, from where the US could exercise control. So it's a big power game which is going on in the entire region. China, of course, we know is already ensconced in that region. Also, they are very much there in Afghanistan. And therefore, in this entire scenario, in this entire melting pot, Pakistan, of course, being manipulative as they always are, they must have promised the moon to the US that we will get you all this, we will open your routes, we will keep an eye on Iran, we will open your routes to Central Asia, Russia can be kept in check, etc., etc. They must have promised all that, but all that is now on the verge of a complete collapse. And therefore enter India into the picture. Now, what is India's interest in the region? You might be wondering, why should we be interested in the region? We should be interested in the region for two or three very, very important things. The first biggest thing, and that has already been made public in the visit of the Afghanistan foreign minister and when his talks, which were held with Jay Shankar, that we do not want any terrorist coming from Afghanistan soil to enter into India. And this is a matter of serious concern because, yes, let's face facts. There was a time when relations between India and Afghanistan were very, very strange. In fact, I don't know if some of you know this, but there have been in the past attacks by the Taliban on Indian missions in Afghanistan. That has also happened. Again, Pakistan has played a role in that, in antagonizing the simple-minded, I would say, Afghan people against India at that time. Has been playing these kind of roles. We know about that. Then the infamous rather, I would say, the Kandahar plane hijacking, which again involved the Taliban. But again, there is something very interesting which not many people have talked about, which is my analysis, that when Jaswant Singh was negotiating with the Taliban, for the release of the plane and the passengers, uh, I think the reason why Jaswant Singh, even though that entire thing was not really warranted, he shouldn't have done that. But I think the confidence which he had that his personal safety would not be threatened if he met the Taliban and all that springs from the fact, because at the end of the day, both we in India and the Afghani deep down know that actually India is a friend of the Afghani people. And we will not go against their self-interest. We will certainly not trample on their self-respect. They know that, and that probably gave the confidence. This is just a side note which I am saying to Jaswant Singh to negotiate with the Taliban at that time, though that policy should not, that maneuver should not have been done in hindsight. But be as it may, uh, the links of the Afghani people with the Indian people are very, very deep. They go way back, right to the times of, I would say, Rabindranath Tagore, the Kabliwala, all kinds of things, Khan Abdul Ghaffar. I mean, you name it. All that is there. So, what are India's interests in Afghanistan? Number one, we don't want any terrorism coming, because there was a time in the back, and some many years back, when Afghan terrorists actually have come again on the prodding of Pakistan to India. They have attacked Indian interests. We didn't want that. We also wanted that the Afghanis would keep a check on ISIS and Al Qaeda. That also was part of the main interest which we have. And then also we wanted that we did not want Pakistan to be in pole position vis-a-vis both Iran and Central Asia. That also is a secondary objective of India, and which means more closer cooperation with Afghanistan. And then the third important thing was to keep the energy situation status quo in a certain sense. There's all this new talk of trips and all this realignment of the energy routes, etc., is not exactly would be in India's favor. So, and then the access from Afghanistan to all these Central Asian republics. that also was something which we wanted to keep status quo. We did not want to be, it did not want to be disturbed. But I think the most important thing, which will, I'm pretty sure will start getting talked about in the days and the weeks and the months ahead, would be, and there is a possibility of that. I'm not certainly saying that something like that is already in the works or it's in the pipeline, but maybe if things keep on going well between India and Afghanistan, because already from a technical mission now it has been upgraded to a full-fledged embassy without an ambassador, of course, but that's an ambassador would only be in name. You would have a full diplomatic, all the diplomatic personnel would be there in the embassy in Kabul, which means that the infrastructure projects in Afghanistan would start, which also means that visas for the Afghani people would be more liberal. A lot of medical visas. I know, for instance, like in Delhi, for instance, in the Max Hospital in Saket, there were so many Afghanis who used to come not so long back. All that again could start. Education, setting up of education institutions. I recently met this young man who had worked in Ashraf, who had worked in Afghanistan, and he was running, of all things, a girls' school blessed by the Taliban, which is incredible. So all that could start. But what really could be the game changer for us in this region would be a more an enhanced defense cooperation with Afghanistan. And what could that mean? That could mean, and this is the big one, that in the future, maybe, who knows, the Afghanis might allow us to use the Bagram air base. Just imagine if our Rafales were taking off from the Bagram air base, and then Pakistan would be right under our net. It's one thing to fire away a missile from, let's say, from a forward base in the north of India to, let's say, in Pakistan, which would travel a distance of 200 to 300 to 400 kilometers. But it's a totally different thing when a Rafale would launch a missile from the Bagram air base on Pakistan. It's so near. It changes the contours of a war scenario or of a conflict scenario completely. That also is a possibility that India, therefore, could start using the Bagram airbase. The Afghanis would allow that. We could rebuild the airbase for them, because the Afghanis are very, very clear. They certainly don't want the US coming into the picture, or they've already said that they're not going to give back the Bagram airbase to the US, even though they might have built it, but it's their territory, it's their land after all. And therefore, in a larger context, what really has happened is that the Pakistani arrogance, the Pakistani manipulation, the racism of these Pakistani army generals and their officer class, and also the fact that wherever they go, they basically go with a begging bowl. Pakistan is now known for that. It goes to the US, it goes to it goes to Saudi Arabia, it goes to the UAE. It's always with a begging bowl. Give us money. We'll give our troops. We will give you our nuclear technology. That nuclear blackmail thing keeps going on and on. This is certainly not going to make Pakistan endearing even to the Islamic republics in other parts of the world. Forget about Afghanistan. And therefore, the Afghans, and that is the thing we need to understand, is that today the Taliban is in complete control of Afghanistan. It is completely controls the entire territory, and therefore that level of Afghan control has already been established. So, what is the next step for the Afghanis? The next for the Afghanis, obviously, is to lift the standards of living of the Afghan people. And the Afghanis have understood that despite the Chinese presence in Afghanistan, despite the opening of a diplomatic mission with Russia, despite, of course, Pakistan also, they have a diplomatic mission, obviously they have in Afghanistan, despite all that, the only country which can really cater to all their needs, which can really lift their standard of living, which can help them rebuild, or rather build from new infrastructure, which can build their schools, their educational institutions, but more important, provide medical facilities, facilitate medical visa, so that the Afghanis who are not who are in need of medical help or medical emergencies or medical succor, they can come to cities in India far more easily. And they know that India is the only country which can do that for that without any of the vested interests which a country, for instance, like Pakistan has. And that is why I'm saying that Afghanistan prefers India over Pakistan any day, because they know at the end of the day, India is clean. It has a clean heart. It really wants to do good for the Afghani people. Of course, we have a self interest. We don't want any terrorism emanating from that region. We probably in the future, as I explained, we might ask them if we can use facilities at the Bagram Air Base, if they allow all that. So, all that is, of course, in the future. But at the moment, we really have no vested interest. We don't want to take over Afghanistan or parts of Afghanistan or manipulate the Afghani people. We have no such interest. And the Afghani people know that. And that is why they have chosen India over Pakistan. That is now clear as day. The Pakistan Afghanistan policy lies in a shambles. I think the United States would be very, very worried at what's going on in this region. So it's a time of huge geostrategic shift in this region. It's a major, major development which has happened. And India, after being under pressure, uh, as we all know, because of the trade talks, because of the tariffs, and because of the changing realignments in the geostrategic space, etc., India has suddenly come out on tops, and deservedly so, I would say, because our diplomacy has been working quietly, diligently, and they have been holding the line. And so, on this note, I come to the end of this podcast. I hope you really liked it. You like the show. Do subscribe to it. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.